get our first win of the year. I thought, again, the way our team finished at the end, I think was a great sign. The week before, our defense coming up with a goal line stand showed a lot of resiliency. I know it was just early in the game, but then at the end of the game, finding a way to close it out. Interestingly, a year ago against Texas State, we had them in a 3rd and 20 late in the game, and they converted that almost in the exact same spot. And this year we end up making a play to finish the game. I think said a lot about our players. We didn't have a game without flaws and mistakes, so we're looking to correct those. And just like the week before, not dwell on it, win or lose, but move on to a very good Alabama team. This week is the model of consistency. You want to go and play somebody that is at the top of what you do in Division I football. That's Alabama, well coached. They don't give you much. They run the football. They can throw it. It's going to be a real challenge for our team, but we're excited. I mean, that's why you get into this profession, is to see where you're at. So we're going to take our team over there Saturday and fight like heck and see what happens. But we just got to get better as a team. That's really it. Control we can control, which is our team, and how we do it and how we prepare, and the process of how we get better. And there's a lot of things we can improve on, starting with me as the head coach. So that's what we're trying to do, because we got a long season ahead. And then we want to see some of those things, just how we do it systematically on Saturday.
Coach, you mentioned the challenge ahead of you guys this week. How important was it to be 1-1 heading into this game?
Well, it's critical. I mean, obviously, I think to win that last game, I think for our players, for our fans, hasn't happened in 2 years, getting a win here. It's amazing, the atmosphere we had, the recruits that were at the game, the response we got from that. Winning cures a lot of things. It just does. Winning builds team chemistry. It seems like amazing how the chemistry is when you're winning, and recruiting and everything that goes from that, and the next week's practices and the confidence that you gain from it. So I anticipate we'll have a great week of practice and then head over to Tuscaloosa.
Kevin, didn't really touch on it Saturday night. The job Corey Costa did for you guys all the way around. He made a tackle on a long kickoff return, 4 field goals.
Well, Corey, I've been saying it since the start of camp. Corey's had a great camp. I think he's bounced back from last year, the struggles that we had kicking it. Not only the struggles of field goals, but kicking off. And I think you've seen he's developed his leg strength, and so our kickoffs are deeper. I think he's been really doing a great job of elevating the ball. And it was just a shame that 2 weeks ago we got one blocked, because you're just afraid, okay, what does that do for his confidence? Came right back, banged 4 out of 5, and then kicked off great. So I'm happy for him, and obviously that's a big part of us moving forward, is his ability to kick off and obviously make field goals.
You mentioned Ito getting a lot of carries, not wanting him to get that many carries, but for him to still be able to go out there and get those tough yards throughout the game. What does that say about him as a player?
Says a lot. He likes the ball. He doesn't say much. He likes to play football, and we're lucky to get him. Again, it's I didn't at that moment I didn't realize he had that many carries. We had the other 2 running backs out, and Tez was a guy that a week ago we thought, boy, we'll probably end up redshirting him because he just got to camp late, and so we've got to do a better job this week of rotating those backs, and I think we'll have George Payne back this week. So I think we'll have at least 3 backs we feel comfortable with being able to give the ball to. But, I just think we lost track of that a little bit. That's my fault, but we certainly don't want a guy having to carry the load to that extreme.
Do you think you guys can play a little more loosely now that you have that first win out of the way and get a lot of pressure off of you, call plays more openly and be able to play just a little?
Interesting question. To say loosely, I'd have to speak a little bit. It'd be hard to speak for our players in terms of how they played. Each team is a different challenge, irrespective of the opponent. What Alabama's going to do, in respect to Alcorn's not the same. Really, it's how you dissect an opponent on both sides of the ball, and then you go after it. I don't know if I could say that from a loose standpoint or whatnot, but we've got to go let it hang out. I mean, we've got to go and play, have a little bit of an absence of fear, and I think in everything that you do.
You think of Alabama sometime, or us old guys do, as being a power team running the football, but they're throwing the ball a lot.
Well, again, some of the plays they got last week were a product of their run game. They're still going to want to run it. They're going to want to run it, play action, establish the line of scrimmage. That's good football. always has been, always will be. And so some of the throws that they made last week were bubbles, quick screens on the perimeter off their run game. So that's part of it. That's what everybody's doing these days. So that's no different. It just shows up in the box score as pass game, but the reality is it's all built off the run game. And they've got tremendous athletes on the perimeter. Their guys are doing a good job of blocking for each other, which is a sign of a team playing for each other. They've got great running backs. Their quarterbacks, I think they've done a really good job with both quarterbacks. They're both good players. I think a lot of times you see a program and they can't decide on the quarterback, and that says that they don't have a guy that's talented enough. That's not true. Both these guys are talented enough and warrant being the starter. Either one of them could start and lead them to victory. I think it's a good problem that they have, and I think they've done a great job with it.
Do you worry about your team's, I don't know, collective mentality when you guys have a lead? That it feels like, I mean, kind of against Texas State there was a lead, right? I think against FIU, and then against Alcorn, kind of letting them back into it, letting these teams back into these games.
I don't know that. I do know that. Again, we've got to find a way to make plays at those moments, offensively, defensively, and kicking game, and find a way to do that. Some of that may be true. I don't know that. I don't know if that's it, or if we just got to do it better and find a way. Obviously, the last game we found a way. Now, we could have found a way to run the clock out in 4 minutes. Could have done a better job there. Could have done a better job of scoring touchdowns and not kicking field goals. But in the end, we got to stop at the end, and that's what matters.
If there is a week in Alabama's defense, it's their secondary. Is that something you guys see on film? Is that something you guys hope to take advantage of?
No, I don't see it that way. I see, you watch the West Virginia game, they had one guy make a number of plays, and he's a good player. That receiver they've got at West Virginia just made some plays. And so you see that. And then some of the things that Oklahoma did last year were really on run-pass conflicts, and they had some guys make some plays. So I don't see their secondary as a weakness. I don't. I see they've got really good players. They're physical. They're physical when they want to press you. So I don't see it as that. We're going to have to make some plays on the perimeter because they're going to challenge you. That they've always done that. And so we're going to have to make some plays on the perimeter if we expect to stay in the game and give ourselves a chance. You're not going to consistently just line up and run it against them, so you're going to have to be able to make some plays on the perimeter and do a good job of holding on to it.
Battle up front dictates a lot of what a football game looks like in the end. What do you think of that pass rush that the offensive line is going to have to try to contain, and Nick Mullins' ability to maybe create on his own?
Well, first of all, they're big and physical up front, and they're still developing. They may not be as experienced as they've been in the past up front, but they're physical up front. Their linebackers are physical. They do a great job on third downs. I think you've got to do a great job of staying in front of the chains. You don't want to get into extreme third down and long. Then they get into the nickel and dime packages that they run and then they blitz you and give you different looks, and that's difficult. So the biggest thing is stay in front of the chains, find a way to get big plays. Our offensive line's going to have a big challenge this week. I think they're going to continue to improve as they play together and develop. We just got to do it better.
What's one aspect of your players' game that you see that you didn't see against Mississippi State, that you saw against Alcorn, that you think that you're most excited about going forward?
Well, we didn't turn it over, okay? That first and foremost. Like I always say, 30 years ago, one of the most important stats is not turning it over and creating turnovers, and that's what the difference was this past week. With everything being said of all the mistakes we made, the big plays we gave up at the end of the day, the reason we won is because we didn't turn it over, and we created turnovers. That's a fact. So that's what I like most of all. We got a quarterback that I think tries to take care of the football. Our running backs haven't fumbled it, okay? So at least we haven't lost one. So again, I think that's a positive going forward. Beyond even this week, it's moving forward. How do we take care of the football?
The casual observer against Mississippi State, the front four really sort of stood out, and then against Alcorn State, it may have been the secondary that stood out on defense for you guys. Was the game against Alcorn, the game Saturday, was the secondary's improvement a product of the front four's ability, or did the secondary improve week one to week?
I think they improved. I think that you're talking about a different opponent. I think you're talking about a different week. Again, our sample size is still too small to really gauge week to week. Okay, 1 week to the next week, and sometimes more opportunities are afforded you to make plays. Sometimes, just by the differences in the passing game. So, Kalen Reed has had an interception 3 straight games. And so I think they're continuing to grow. The young corners we're playing are continuing to grow. We just got to do a great job of dialing in, eliminating some of the eye violations, and make sure that we don't give up as many big plays. Because again, that's after turnovers, it's explosive plays, and so we're trying to limit that and trying to do a better job offensively of creating those.
Coach, some might be quick to lump some two SEC opponents together or two hostile environments, one and the same. But how does this week's preparation differ from a couple of weeks ago before Mississippi State?
Well, the difference is you have all year for that first one. The first one was the whole off season from the last game you're playing Mississippi State and the history of playing them. Now, there's a history of playing Alabama, but they're not in state. They're not right up the road. So I think there's a little bit different feel for playing Mississippi State than there is Alabama in terms of just that. Now, in terms of quality opponent, no. There's another quality opponent out there that has done a great job, and has a storied tradition. So, again, from that part of it, it's going to be challenging based on the way they coach them and the quality of player they've got. That's the challenge this week. A little different just because being the third game as opposed to the first one.